All right, everybody, welcome to today's Patron game analysis live stream, in which I will analyze the games of my supporters from patreon.com. And I believe we can get started any moment. And today, actually, I would like to start with a game by Ingo. We'll just maybe wait a few more moments, say hi to Antonio, hi to Misha, and then we can get started. It's been a while since the last Patron game analysis live stream, and today I have 5 games for you guys prepared. I hope you can hear me well, understand me well. How's the lighting today? A little bit dark on this side of my face. It's okay. It's okay. It's more about the chess anyway than the board, than the webcam. So that's fine. Hey to Yo-Yo, and Ian is also here. That's awesome. All right, I think we can get started. We get started with the game by Ingo, who played with the white pieces, and let's begin. Ingo, you played c4, c5, and yeah, the opening was pretty standard, so I go through it fairly quickly up until here. Here you play an unusual move, rook to e1, and I'm not quite sure what the point is behind that move, because if you want to play e4, you could do so immediately. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but you don't need rook e1 to play it. So you didn't write anything in the comments here, so I'm not sure what the purpose of rook e1 was here. The two main moves are either d3 or d4. I think d4 must be the most ambitious move. Takes, knight takes d4, knight takes, queen takes d4, d6, and maybe white has a little bit of an edge here, but okay, it's a pretty standard position. After rook e1, actually, you give your opponent a chance to play d5 and to even already take a slight initiative, I would say. d5, and then it's just reverse colors, and it's not clear how rook e1 helps you in that situation. So you should play d4, I would say, or go d3, either one. Rook e1, I'm not sure what it's all about. Your opponent played e5 instead. Now d3, d6, a3, h6. And here you play rook b1, which is sensible, normal move, of course. You could go b4 immediately as well, just to point it out. And it is a pawn sacrifice. And this is possible because there are already some weaknesses in the black position. The pawn on d6, for example, could be a target. And I think you have some nice compensation here. You could play rook b1 or knight d2. And you have these open files. So you could play your queen, let's say, to c2, play the rook to b1. Of course, we have to watch out for knight d4 as well. But in general, this looks like a pretty harmonious setup. There's knight e4 in the position. The d5 square, of course, is weakened. It's a possibility, just for you to remember in future games that you think about it. So rook b1. Knight to h7, and here you play the surprising move. So you just play rook b1, and now you play e4. Why not follow up with b4? I suppose that was your intention with rook b1 anyway, and what stopped you from playing it now? So I think b4 would give you a nice advantage here. How should black react? If he goes b6, he shouldn't do that, because tactics, knight takes e5 wins you material right away. And if he plays f5, which I guess was his intention, maybe what you want to stop with e4, I'm not sure. If he plays f5, you can go knight h4, hit the pawn on g6, and well, what to do? Knight e7, take on c5. immediately there's some pressure on this pawn. We can play knight d5 here. This all looks pretty promising. In general, the problem with e4 is that it's twofold actually. For one, the bishop becomes very sad now. It's a very sad bishop. Before it was a happy bishop, now it's a sad bishop because it's blocked. This diagonal was the pride of the bishop and you took it away from him. So he's very sad now. Also, this square is obviously now a weak square as you cannot cover it with one of your pawns anymore. And that's annoying. So I don't think there are too many upsides to this move. I see that you want to control the center more and maybe you want to stop f5, even though I don't think this move stops f5. But yeah, there are too many downsides to this move clearly. And instead, keep the diagonal open, play b4, pressure him on this diagonal. I mean, this is what these positions are all about. This is what the players love about this opening, that they have this bishop here and then they can play this setup a3, b4, rook b1, and then they put pressure here on the queen side and it's always connected to the bishop. Alright, e4, bishop e6, now b4, b6, bishop d2, knight f6. Here you go, rook f1, and I took a look at this position. It's not so easy to come up with a good plan. I wasn't too happy with rook f1 though. I think you could first clarify the situation here, because if black takes with the b pawn, at least you have some possibilities to create play of rook b7, or maybe play knight d5 first, and you can try to invade via the b file. If your opponent takes with the d pawn, then you just put a knight on d5, and the knight is quite unpleasant there. And whenever black takes on d5, you would get a passed, okay, here especially it doesn't make sense because black loses the pawn, but in general you get a strong protected passed pawn on d5, which is quite valuable. So I think that would make sense to first put the knight in here, takes, knight d5, and then you could think about future plans, maybe put the bishop in c3. And yes, of course, at some point you have to do something. Either play with a4, a5, that would be one way to open up the position, or to at some point prepare f4. Maybe bishop c3, knight d2, then you could play rook f1, f4. Something along these lines I would recommend here. But it's a tricky position. It also took me a while to figure out something sensible to do. Okay, your plan is interesting, but also has its downsides. Queen d7, knight e1. For one, that you're giving up the square on d4 temporarily. Knight c2, bishop h3, knight e3. All right, and Ingo is also in the chat. That's great. I'm just gonna pop out the chat for future reference. Okay, and he says, I was afraid of f5. Yeah, but if we go back to this moment really quick, I don't... Okay, after f5, I guess you could take, but even then, I'm not sure how much that helps you. Of course, now you're happy again because your bishop is open, but I don't know. I don't know if this is really so helpful. I mean, on the other hand, what's the problem with f5, right? So here, even if you don't play knight h4, okay, black's threatening e4. We should take that into consideration, but even if you play maybe knight d5, I mean, not much is happening here. Of course, we need to be careful that black doesn't checkmate us at some point, but this is a long way to go from here. So, like I said, it was more important to keep the bishop open, to have that kind of pressure and also have better control of the d4 square. All right, what's the position? Here we go. Rook f1. Dum da dum. Knight e3, knight e8, knight d5. So far so good. I like this sequence here. You have implemented your plan. The knights are well placed. Takes, and now you're asking No, I actually put this question. Ha. Now you played knight c2, and this is a mistake. And my question to you is, for what are you aiming for? For what exchanges are you aiming for? This is an important question to ask yourself during the games. What kind of minor piece configuration would you like to have in this position? If you only had one minor piece left and the opponent had one left, which ones should that be? And in this case, it should be your knight against this bishop, because then you have this classical situation, good knight, strong knight on an outpost against bad bishop, because the bishop cannot attack the knight. And the pawns are, many of the pawns are on the same color of the bishop. That makes the bishop a bad bishop because it's blocked. And on the other hand, you have control then over the light squares, for example, the square d5. So this is what you want to aim for. The problem of knight c2 is that it actually will then become very difficult to achieve that goal. So there are two interesting moves here. One is just a typical pawn move here in these kind of positions, to play f4 to counter the center and not allow black to grab more space by playing f4 himself. And here, let's say black would also play knight f6, and now we see the benefit immediately. If black plays knight f6, which is a move he wants to go anyway, play anyway, knight c7, knight f6, the knight is really badly placed on e8, then you can exchange the knight and the other knight comes to d5. So this is great. And then let's say the rook drops back, you can go after the knight on d4, play bishop e3, bishop c3, exchange the knight, and then we have the desired piece configuration. Good knight against bad bishop. Same thing is true for queen h5 here, which is, I think, a very logical move to activate the queen. Also having an eye on this pawn as well as this pawn. And now knight f6, you can take. Now black has to take with the rook, otherwise the pawn is hanging on h6. And now once again knight d5, rook e6. And yeah, because the pawn still needs protection. And again, bishop c3, and yeah, okay, black could move the knight, but well, this is also not something he wants to do, and otherwise, when you want to, you can exchange the knight, and then you still have that strong knight on d5, and I think you have pretty good chances. You're better. So this is, I think, an important lesson from this game, to ask yourself the question, for what exchanges am I aiming for? What do I want to achieve? And which piece do I not want to exchange, maybe? After knight c2, both knights come off the board now. Like we see here. Still, you could argue that your bishop is better than the dark square bishop, but it's not too much of a difference here, because the pawns are still fluid. Black can push e4 or f4 at a given moment. And also, it's not that important here when we compare the two bishops, because we're not in an endgame yet, and there's still some play against your king, as we also saw in the game. Now bishop c3, f4, and you need to be concerned about your king. It feels like with a knight on d5, that would be much more restrictive for black, because the knight takes away so many squares. Alright, f3, good move, takes, rook a f8. Okay, so this move was a complete mystery to me, because the opponent, he's getting ready, he's playing here on the king side, doubling on the f file, and you know, there might be h5, h4 coming, and you're like, I'll play b5. So, of course, positionally speaking, this is a reasonable move to gain some more space there and to fix the pawn on a7 and so on, but this is not the position to make such moves. I mean, it's not a big deal here, but just in general, in principle, you don't want to make like moves like that when your opponent is getting ready to attack you, more or less, right? So you would rather either do something else or open up this b file. This would be actually a good moment to take on c5, because black cannot take with the d pawn. The pawn would be hanging, and then if he takes with the b pawn, at least you have the b file. At least now your rook is doing something. when you play b5, it's like your rook is sad on b1. And now play queen e2, bring the queen to e4 maybe. And you know, there could be some counterplay down the line here along the b file and along the 7th rank. So that would be one possibility, or the other possibility would be just to stay flexible. Just play queen e2, improve the queen, protect this pawn once more, bring the queen to a good square here on e4. And you still have the option to take or go b5. There was no need at this point in time to play b5. I mean, you cannot even argue that you're preventing queen c6, because black could still play queen b7 if he wants to. So, yeah, this move was surprising to me. And now, let me just check if there are any questions. Let me know if you have any questions at any point, if anything is unclear. That's why we're doing it live, right? So you can ask questions while I'm doing my thing here. All right, so b5, rook f5, queen e2, d5. And now you're saying, I didn't realize that I could take the pawn. Well, I'm sure you know it's theoretically possible, but I guess what you mean is that you didn't really consider, maybe because you thought then your pawn on d3 is weak. I'm not sure. I think you stopped too early here, because if you see the next move, then you're like, okay, this looks pretty decent, right? I played a queen to e4 with tempo, and if black takes, now you can immediately improve your pawn structure again. Actually, you could take with either pawn. Could take with the d pawn, so you get rid of the weakness and then go after d file. This looks pretty good, actually. I like that. And here now this difference in the bishops will really matter in the endgame, because your bishop is so much better than the black bishop, and you have very good chance to play for win. So black should keep the queens on the board, queen f7, and it's actually still balanced, which was a little bit surprising to me, because I felt like the queen is so well placed on e4 and you have the better bishop, but the problem is your king. The king is just pretty unsafe. So for example, here rook f2, h5, rook h1 could be played, but then black would also have some play here, queen b3. So it's very very double-edged still, and seems it's about balanced after all. Rook bd1, rook h5. Okay, now you play g4, which is probably what your opponent wanted you to play, because it further weakens your position and it allows your opponent to more easily open up your king. We have to be very careful with pawn moves in front of our own king, because with every pawn move we create weaknesses and we cannot undo them. Pawns are the only piece that cannot move back, so we need to be especially careful with those moves. And here you don't need to play g4. Of course, queen h3 is a threat, but you could play king g1 to deal with it. If now queen h3, you can just go queen to g2 and you're okay. So that would have kept the balance. After g4 you are worse. Rook g5, bishop d2, rook g6, and now rook h1. And you're saying you underestimated what's happening in the center. Yeah, even though of course was also not an easy combination to see, but yeah, I should probably play a move like bishop c1, and it's still okay here, because after h5 you can still go g5. I think you were afraid of h5, that's why you played rook h1, but g5 still works, since the black king is also pretty weak. For example, like this, and now if black takes, rook g1, you also get play yourself, and it seems should be balanced after all. But of course, very, very concrete and double-edged position. So rook h1, here your opponent could win on the spot with e4 or d takes c4 and e4. Not so easy to see, honestly, but we need to look out for such moves. We need to look out for breaks, especially if we already see our king being a bit airy here, being vulnerable, then we need to be on the lookout. So this works because, okay, f takes e4 obviously is forbidden, and queen takes e4, there's rook d6, and That's a deadly pin here on the d file, because black can also renew the threat, and then you lose a piece and you lose the game. So yeah, we need to be aware of such breaks. Rook gf6, rook df1, rook e8, rook h5, takes, e4. Okay. Yeah, the position is not easy to play, as you also noted yourself, because you're getting attacked, right? It's still balanced here, but you need to be careful. You had two moves. One is rook d5. The point is, after e takes f3, you can take with the queen. And because of this attack on both queens, and that would be fine. Or the alternative would be to just take, actually. Of course, this also looks dodgy, but it works. Actually, once again, here rook d5 would be also a move, but okay, we don't have to be super fancy. Takes, queen d4, and now rook d5. It's possible, and black wants to regain the pawn now. He has to allow the queen trade, and then you will be okay with check and rook d7, going after pawn, threatening also bishop c3, and this should be a draw. So I think maybe you missed e3. I'm not sure. I mean, if you were able to play one more move, bishop e3, you'd be okay, I think. But after black plays e3, it's just, the problem is that there are also more, this diagonal is opening up, the pawn gets very close to its promotion square, so this means trouble. Yeah, so if you spotted e3, then at this point you must say, okay, I need to do something else, I cannot allow that. And then you might either find a move like rook d5, which is not so easy to find, of course, because it's somewhat counterintuitive, allowing black to take on f3 with check, attacking our queen. But also you maybe take a closer look at this move and actually realize, I can get away with it. I can actually get away with it because black doesn't have that much attacking material anymore. And once again, the black king is also open. So black cannot go all crazy. He also has to watch out for his own king. So after f4, e3, yeah, here you play bishop c3, you gift a tempo to your opponent. You should play bishop c1, but in either case, it will be really tough to defend now. Bishop c3, rook d6, bishop e1, rook d4. Yeah, and from here on, there's really not much to do. It's just too tough against this pawn, and with your king, this position is lost. Maybe rook h3 was a better try here, because, yeah, I mean, the rook is not doing anything on f5, really, right? So you rather want to have an eye on this pawn, but like I said, in either case, here black goes queen e6, wins the pawn. You're very passive and your king is open. This will not end well, probably. Okay, so rook f5, takes, queen takes, rook f3. Yeah, there's just nothing to do here. I mean, you tried for a long time, but unfortunately there's nothing to do. Here was maybe one more chance to steer something up with queen g2, maybe get some ideas here with bishop c3, something against the pin. But with that king, I mean, honestly, black really has to go wrong. But okay, things have happened, right? Like that. So we want to still make it as difficult as possible for our opponent. Check, king g2, bishop takes. Okay, now you're 3 pawns down and the checks will run out. Okay, and a lot of checks, and now you just play queen e5, and you said here there are no cheapos left anymore, and okay, e2 is coming, so you resigned. All right. And Ian's is saying g4 gives black a hook, Niklas. And Ian has read about it in the book by Sam Shankland. Small steps to giant improvement. Yeah, that is true. Pawn moves are very delicate affair, because as I said, they don't move back. So every pawn move creates weaknesses. In this case, f4 square, h4 square, right? And what you're saying, the hook, now black can more easily in the future open up the king by playing h5. Before that, he would have needed to play 2 moves. Now it's just 1. So pawn moves are an important matter. All right, so what can we say about this game in total? I think the opening was fine. This rook e1 move, you might want to check what to do there instead, but okay, it's not a big deal. And then you implement that typical plan with a3, rook b1, but then you stopped. And I think that was the first very important moment where you played e4, and that really didn't help your position. Let's put it like that. And then this maneuver to bring the knight to e3 was okay. Like I said, there were also some other possibilities. I would have kept the knight on f3 for now, but it's a difficult position. And then I think the next big point besides e4 was for what exchange to aim for, to realize, okay, what do I want to have left on the board? That's the question to ask yourself. I mean, both in terms, I think in general we could say about this game, it's for one, it's about which pawn structure do I want to aim for, and for the other, which exchanges do I want to accomplish. For example, in this position, which exchange would you like to accomplish? If you could take any pair of pieces off the board right now, which pair would you like to take off? I hope the answer is the queens, because your king is weaker than your opponent's king. So here you would like to take the queens off the board, and it would take a lot of pressure off your position, right? So this is always something we need to keep in mind when we play for what are we aiming for. And then get a little bit concrete. You and your opponent missed this e4 idea, which was a little bit tough to spot. And then, yeah, this last critical moment was here, I would say, after e4, you decide to play f4, but then your opponent just got that really strong passed pawn on the e file, so you had to get rid of it, either by taking now or playing rook d5, and then the position would have been still equal. All right, let me know if you have any more questions, and in the meantime I will drink something. Or I could answer the question by Emmanuel. Emmanuel is saying, instead of g4, play rook h1. Oh, in this position, rook h1. No, I think that would be a mistake. It's my feeling. My feeling is something bad will happen here, connection with e4. So rook takes h1. Now rook takes h1 would lose because of e4 right away. Double attack. I mean, yeah, this must be crushing. Yeah. So then the king would need to take, and either e4 is possible here as well. Or there's also queen h3 now, forcing queen h2, takes, and now maybe d4 and then take the pawn on f3. Yeah, now this, I think rook h1 doesn't work as well. King g1 was strictly the only move to keep the balance. Not an easy move to see, but it's possible. All right. Well, Ingo, thanks for sending in the game. I hope it was instructive and valuable, and let me know if you have any more questions later on. And for now, I would like to move on to game number 2. And this game is by Mario, and we have to flip the board because Mario, you're playing with the black pieces. And it is the Sicilian. It's a close Sicilian though. Okay, rook b8 early, it's a little bit unusual, isn't it? I think usually people develop first bishop g7 and so on. I don't know if there's any immediate drawback to this move, but okay, interesting. a4, bum ba bum, knight e7, d3, castle, and now your opponent went a little bit overboard right away, just gifting your pawn, which was really nice of him. I'm sure you thanked him after the game. So now you pretty much already have a winning position. I mean, here I don't have much to comment so far. All these moves make a lot of sense. Knight f5, bishop e7, this is all great. Knight cd4 I think is also fine. Of course there are many options. I mean, you just pawn up with a beautiful position. So this has gone really well. Knight takes. Here, okay, you took with the pawn, of course, this is nice. Knight, any move is nice. C takes d4 also looks pretty tempting to get that half open c file. I think I would have liked this even a bit better because it just leaves more dynamics still in the position, you know? You have the half open c file, and later on you could push f5, e4, and so on. So because what happened in the game was that it dried a little bit up, right? That white got away. So here it's not possible to imagine the game will dry up in any way, really, because there are a lot of open files. Even if white plays c3, you'll take, and there are targets, right? So I think c takes d4 is maybe even a bit better. Takes, rook e1, bishop h6, queen e1. Okay, here I think bishop e3 would have been very strong. Knight e3 also looks very nice, but why not bishop e3 to get the knight to e3 without having exchanged? Yeah, I mean, this must be just complete. This is just game over here. This is the line you give. Okay, look at the knight. I mean, the knight is just a bit more annoying than a bishop. The bishop is also very annoying on e3, but the knight, it's just game over. We don't have to talk about it, right? I mean, the only hope for white would be to exchange it somehow, but no, this is just completely busted because the king is also weak, and yeah, you should win here sooner or later. So maybe you played knight e3 too quickly, I don't know, or maybe you misevaluated the position. Well, of course, in both cases you're doing really well, but by playing knight e3, at least white is having still a good control over the light squares. And the bishop on e3, while it is very nice here in blocking the e-file and everything, it's not doing terribly much. So white is still in the game, even though of course you pawn up and everything, but white is still in the game. And we don't want that. We want to be as forceful as possible when we have the advantage and don't give them any chance to hang around for too long, I guess. Here you play king g7. I don't think there's anything wrong with going f5 right away. Alright, let's do this one more time. f5, and then knight d2, queen d7. Okay, it's similar to the game. I'm just not sure why you play king g7. To me it seems not necessary. Okay, king g7, rook f1, f5, knight d2, queen d7, I think is also very logical. Knight c4, rook b8, takes, queen g2. Okay, here, important moment, right? Queen trade, always important moment. Do we take them off or not? You traded queens, I think you should keep them on. And it's simple, it's just more chances for you if the queens are on. Especially because the king is weaker. And this is, I mean, this is the main question usually you want to ask yourself when there's a queen trade offer, which king is safer? And it must be your king here. you also have an extra pawn to guard your king, right? And in the future, you'll play f4, and then probably like even another pawn will come off in front of the white king. So queen c7, queen d7 doesn't really matter, but I think you should keep your queens on. And then you could play f4, and I think this is giving you better chances, just better chances. I mean, maybe white might hold somehow, try to get a fortress somehow, but with queens on the board, there's just so much more potential, right? So yeah, more potential, and your king is safer, so that's why you should keep the queens on the board. I think in general, if there's a queen trade offer, yeah, either it's king safety or material. Obviously, if you are up material, it makes often sense to trade queens and then just to convert in the end game, because it takes away counterplay. But once again, it feels like it's connected to the king's safety, because if you're up material and your king is safe, then you might as well keep the queens on the board and checkmate your opponent. But if your king is not safe, then you want to trade queens so you can convert in the endgame without being checkmated. Queen takes, king takes. Now you play f4. Yeah, probably you should prepare rook e6 first. To not, yeah, why would you allow the knight to e4, right? This is not necessary. You have time here. a5, you always play b5, no problem. Knight takes e3 is not a threat. The rook endgame is very promising for you. You could take back with either one, probably with the rook, but either one is fine. It looks, yeah, really, really promising. So no rush here, I would say. I think here you rushed a bit with f4, because now the knight is coming to the knight is coming to e4, and there, of course, it's excellently placed. So this was not necessary to allow. Here you played an odd move, rook a8. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why. Probably aimed against a5, but I mean, it would be better to play rook e6 and then do something else here. For example, play c4. So after a5, you can just go b5, and here you still have good chances to win. You can use the c file, especially as you're controlling the square. So this is still giving chances. After rook a8, you don't have many chances anymore, I think. Now it will be really tough. Okay, knight e4. Yeah, here once again you should play c4. It's probably your best shot. Yeah. And then c4. I mean, this is a bit tricky now, but here you can go rook a8, and the knight really doesn't have a good place now, because what to do, right? And not many squares left. And after knight d6, the knight will not a6 right away, but first rook c6 to take the c7 square away. And then after b3, you could play a6. And the knight is all the way on a3 now, where it's, well, really badly placed. And then you can push the pawns forward, and you still have good chances here. But yeah, c4 is already not an easy move to make. And if white doesn't take, if it takes an f4, okay, you take and play rook c8, and you have chances, right? You come in on c2, you have chances. Of course, your position has been better in the past, but at least you still have some chances. Yeah, h6, g4. Okay, a5 was also an option here, and also in the last move, but your opponent didn't want to do that. Rook aca, king f3. And yeah, I think now is your last chance. You have to play c4, because in the next move your opponent plays b3, and then I think it's just a fortress pretty much. I mean, this is all pretty well set. So I think it's just a fortress. So you need to go c4 here. Maybe you were afraid of this move, knight d6. If so, it was a matter of calculation here that this is actually winning with the 2 pawns and the bishop. This would be very nice. Just push the pawns forward and win. So white shouldn't do that. You should probably play a move like h4. Takes, rook c2, b4. And yeah, this will be still tough to win, because it's very difficult to get to the king, right? It's very safe here on f3 with the knight and everything. So, but this is your best try. Somehow, gotta make it work. I mean, I could see you win that, but won't be easy. All right, let's see what you say here. Sorry, I'm reading. All right, you agree that the knight is more powerful on e3 than the bishop. Yeah, that's. I mean, knight e3 also looked tempting, but that was just a bit better still to have a knight in the end on e3. And you're saying recapture on d4 with the c pawn was much better since the move I played was too slow. Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of taste maybe too, but just seemed to me, just felt like c takes c4 is just for the future, keeps more potential. Okay, and with rook a8, you intended to prepare a6 and b5. Yeah, but just concretely it didn't really do too much. And you're saying in this variation the pawns look like my game against James Jackson from just a few days ago at the Isle of Man International. And you asked me about the game. I didn't prepare it for now because I had too many other games here to prepare for. But I might do a game analysis. Maybe. I'm quite busy at the moment, but maybe I'll get to this game because it was a really interesting game. But for now, let's stick with your game. And here, I think after rook c6, it should be a draw because here, yeah. I mean, a computer says you should go a5 here or later, but this is just to make sure you're not worse. This is not really, I mean, you're a pawn up, but I don't see how you could win this position. No, I mean, you would somehow need to play g5, h5, and then penetrate along the h file. But in the meantime, white will get ready for it. So I don't see you win this. But this could be still a try somehow to get this set up. But maybe white even plays, oh yeah, white even plays h4 here. Oops. And now there's really nothing you can do. h5, g5. Or g5, h5. I mean, just for illustration, of course, white could also take. Yeah, I think that would be a draw. Okay, so you want to push, of course, understandably. But sometimes we also have to say, all right, well, before I lose this game, I should better make a draw. And here, actually, you're risking it now by going b5. And your opponent gets the advantage. b5, takes, rook ba1. Yeah, and I mean, white is really active. And like I said, this setup is already really good with knight and king. And your bishop is just a bystander here. So, tough position. And you don't really have any chances. So here you realize you cannot take because knight d6, knight d8 wins the exchange. King h7 is what you played. It's a tough position already. You should play rook e7 here. And should be still within close to equality, but of course you're fighting here. So this was not as it was intended, obviously. King h7, well, one problem is you still are not threatening to take because there's knight f6 and still, okay, maybe there's not knight f6 because you could go to h8 and then after rook a8 you can go rook c8. But yeah, king h7 feels a little bit wrong. c5, and here you should definitely try to simplify with d3 takes, bishop takes c5, when that should lead to a draw, I think. Even though, I mean, it's white who's trying for sure, but this should lead to a draw. After rook e7, you're much worse now because you're also playing without this bishop more or less, right? So he could play rook a6 and I think it's winning already, or it's pretty good at least. It's really good already. But he played rook a7. All right, and now he's winning after your next move. So you have to take, of course. Not a move one happily plays, but this is what needed to happen. Since after rook e6, this position is actually lost. But as you told me, there was a huge time scramble here. You don't have the remaining moves. And somehow white blundered. I'm still curious how exactly he blundered, because his position is very safe, it seems. But, well, something, right? Some blunder. I don't know. In any case, you won the game, which is good. Yeah. An odd game. Your opponent giving you the advantage so early, pretty much getting a winning position by move. We could say, I mean, already here you might call it a winning position, because your pawn up plus the white king is clearly weak. And then slowly but surely you're losing the threat. And in the end game you don't stop. Even when your advantage was gone already, you still kept pushing and you over pushed, and that led to the losing position. So that's a tough one psychologically to admit, oh, I gave it away, I let the advantage slip, and then to be like, okay, I need to play for a draw. So that's not easy to do, but that's what you needed to do. Otherwise, you could have lost that one. I mean, your position was, at this point in the final position I have here, this is a lost position. So white has an extra pawn, and he can support it with his rook, with his knight, and this is lost. So, yeah, that should better not happen. To go from a winning position to a lost one in such a manner. But that's how we learn, and fortunately for you it still had a happy ending here. So yeah, maybe a couple of things. I mean, like we said already here, it's, you know, it's details. It doesn't change the evaluation of the position if you take with the c pawn. Same with if you play knight e3 or bishop e3. But we want to look at what makes it easiest to convert, right? We want to still play the moves that cause the most trouble to our opponent, and that make it more likely that he makes mistake, that makes his defensive task more difficult. So in both these cases, I think it's clear that these alternatives, like bishop e3 here or c takes d4 earlier, make it more difficult for your opponent. And then I think the last big point was the queen trade here, where, yeah, trading queens just eases the pressure, alleviates the pressure, because at least white doesn't have to worry about his king anymore. In the end, it was the white king who was much safer, right? The white king suddenly with this setup was super safe. and it's your king which is more exposed because your bishop is on e3, just looking cool but not doing anything. So yeah, those are, I think, the big points here. And let me see if you have any more questions about this game. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like you say, I knew it, but I kept pushing. Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough thing to do, to realize, okay, I messed it up and now I have to settle. I have to settle for a draw. It's not easy. And you're saying I'm not proud of this game. Well, we all have those kind of games. And even better that you still send it in, because those are the games we learn from. And at least you still won it, right? I mean, it would have been much more painful if you just lost this game, right? After being better to winning the entire game. If you lost it, it would have been even worse. So at least you won it somehow, even though, yeah, I'm curious how you did it, but okay, this will remain behind the curtains. All right, I'll just drink something and we'll get to the next game. Anything else in the chat? Nothing more difficult than winning a one position. Very true. Yeah, all right. Let's do game number 3. Here we go. This time, Mario, another game from you. You're playing with the white pieces again, Maximilian Lou. And what do we have? It's the English. Well, now we go into, I don't know what this is called. An anti-Grunfeld maybe? No idea. Anyway, here you go, knight f3. Just to point out, rook b1 is another move, as well as h4. They play h4 in all kinds of positions these days. I think it's pretty reasonable here as well. Just if you want to mix it up, those are some alternatives. Bam bam, castle, castle, c5, d4, knight c6. Yeah, so this is still theory, but it seems you weren't aware of it, because you said, I here consider bishop a3, bishop b2, and e3 2. This position has been still seen, I don't quite remember, over 100 times, I think. No, more. I think more than that. I think e3 was played like 300 times already. Something like that, which makes sense. I mean, both players played natural moves. So e3 is the main move. That would be one option. Bishop e3, I think it's not giving, I think it's the second most played move, but it's not giving white anything, really. I think maybe the most interesting is d5, from what I saw briefly. Yeah, I don't think the black should take this pawn. Probably should go knight a5. And now bishop f4, bishop f5. I mean, there's some imbalance here, right? Because you play d5, you have more space. So it's dynamic, anything can happen. Just it gives more spice. It adds more spice to a position. There was actually a game from the US Championship this year between Shanklin and So, which won rook b1, but it seems this is not too great a try here. The game went like knight takes d4, takes, queen takes, bishop e3. Yeah, I mean, this actually in the game, Shanklin even had to defend to get a draw, but yeah, I think this is just a way to make a draw here with white. It doesn't look like a very ambitious try. So yeah, like I said, I would recommend you to look into e3 or maybe d5. There's also d takes c5, but okay, I'm not sure, but also exists. It's also interesting. Okay, bishop e3 takes, and here you play a novelty. You play bishop takes d4, and I think 20 times or so has been seen c takes d4, knight takes d4, maybe 60 times. Yeah, bishop takes d4 nobody plays because, well, you're just offering your bishop for free on d4. So you don't want to do that. Just give up your bishop pair like that. Yeah, there's really no upside to this move. It's the knight who belongs in the center here. Or take with the pawn. That would be also fine. Knight takes d4. Yeah, but black is fine here. Like you also put in here a game by Wagner. Black played knight a5. Black is fine. I mean, in either case, also after c takes d4, bishop e6, black is okay. So this is why I said bishop e3 is not the best try in the position. Okay, takes e5, bishop c5, rook e8. Here say you also consider queen a4 and queen d6. Yeah, queen d6 I think doesn't make much sense really. I mean, if you want to trade right away, the bishop is not well placed on d6, and queen a4 is from e4. So you play queen takes d8. Yeah, I think you should keep the queens on the board because well, I'm not sure if I can make an argument for that your king is safer here than the black king, because it feels like black king is also pretty safe. But then again, he has already played e5, so at least this square is a little bit more vulnerable. And the other thing is that your structure is worse, right? You have 2 pawn islands here on the queen side. So one way to compensate for that is to play dynamically and to get play against the opponent's king at some point, maybe, right? So I think in general you want to keep queens on the board here. One way to do this would be at knight to d2. This makes sense anyway because there's a weak square on d6, and that would prepare the knight to land on d6 sooner or later. So knight d2 I think was a good move here. Because the knight is not doing too much on f3 anyway, it's just getting hit with e4 here and then, here and there. So I think knight d2 was good. So I think once again, queen trade. Queen trade is the topic for your games today. In both cases, I think it was not the right decision. Because this endgame is pretty sad for you. I mean, you're just defending here, you have the worst structure. And these pawns, especially pawn c3, you have to watch out that you don't lose them. So this is not a happy endgame to play. I mean, you're just, all you can hope for really reasonably is a draw. Whereas if you play knight d2, I mean, anything can happen with queens on the board. Also opening up the bishop. This, yeah, looks good. Looks better. Okay, here you play rook fd1. You say knight g5, this move wasn't in my candidate moves. Once again, same idea, right? Same idea to bring the knight to better squares. The knight on f3 is not too happy. Okay, rook fd1 on the other hand, I mean, it's a very natural move. But once again, here you should go knight g5, right? Once again, bishop c4 and e3. Yeah, here black can probably play f5 as you put, but okay, still, this feels like the way to go. You play bishop d6, and yeah, this is not achieving anything, right? If you were able to play c4, c5, then okay, that would be something different, but you're not able to do that. I mean, you could just take there. So I guess you didn't really look ahead far, or maybe you missed this idea that you could just double rooks. I don't know. But after rook d7 you had to retreat. So obviously I didn't help you much, especially as now your opponent won this pawn, but at least you get a little bit active. So that's something. Rook d7, b6. And here play rook c7, which is fine, takes. And now, but now you took too early. I mean, in general, the problem is black has this passed a pawn, right? And the rook is already well placed. So what we want to do here is we want to at least push the rook away. So knight g5 to take with the bishop on c6 and attack the rook would be better. Yeah, this would also, you know, ask some questions here for black. And it's not so easy for him. First, you would not need to play this move to keep the advantage, bishop f6. Now you could also already take on c6. Here the only move to keep the advantage is bishop d8. Okay, I mean those are moves your opponent first has to find, right? It's not so trivial. And here bishop e6. Okay, this endgame will be tough, but you keep some chances here for survival, even though, yeah, this will be very tough. The alternative was to go h4 here. It's also possible. And now the line you gave was a5 takes, bishop d8, rook b7, bishop a4. Okay, once again, you're definitely putting up much more resistance because at least this pawn will not queen so soon. Here if the rook takes c6, yeah, I'm guessing you played this too quickly. I don't know, but this is like you just thought, okay, I need to regain my piece. You didn't even think about other moves like moving the knight and pinning the knight on c6. This would be my guess. So if so, then yeah, take more time before playing automatic moves, I guess. Automatic, because they're not automatic sometimes. Rook takes c6, e4, knight g5, f5, rook takes c5. Yeah, it's a tough position now, of course. Here, yeah, I should go f3 instead of rook takes c5, but either way, I mean, this will be, yeah, I mean, this is lost. To be honest, this is lost. Here he should go a5, but he played bishop f6. And now you should try rook a5. But in all these lines, I mean, it would make it more difficult for your opponent, but it wouldn't change the evaluation. This is also, of course, winning. But you still need to make it as hard as possible, right? You still need to put up the most resistance. You have the h4, a5, h4, a5. This is really bad now. But okay, you keep on fighting, check, c4. And now actually your opponent panics and he plays bishop takes g5 and you still have some chance again. He could just push, right? Because here you can just give the exchange. There's no mate and this pawn will queen. White has to give up the rook and then black is up a piece. So he takes a4, bishop d5, h6, takes king h7. Okay, this is the last critical moment in the game, I think. Yeah. And I don't know what the time situation was, but here you could have made it still really difficult. There are two options, g4 and e4. And after both, I mean, the win is not easy for black in either case. So let's begin with e4. If black takes, that would be a draw because you would get the pawn on g6, and I think you should be able to sacrifice the bishop against the pawn, probably, and then you have to just defend bishop and rook against rook, which is a draw, theoretically at least. So after e4, black should take on h6 instead, and now play bishop e1. Okay, and here you bring the rook back, but this is yeah, this should be lost, but it's still not still tricky. I mean, for example, here black cannot go into rook endgame because this would be a draw as these two pawns get exchanged. So just play bishop c2, rook c1, a3 now, a2, and I mean, he has to be really precise, as you can notice probably here. And then he gets this position, which I feel like should be winning for black. But yeah, not so easy, right? Not so easy. 1 point here is at c7, rook takes. Doesn't work because of rook c2. So this is e4, this would be a good try. The other try is similar as g4. And then rook f8. And e4, that's the pawn now. Now you can play c5 and protect the bishop. And again, this position, okay, maybe it's winning for black, but okay, what do you have to lose, right? Your position was bad anyway, and this is the best you can get, and black still has to win somehow. I don't even know. Will he win this? Doesn't look like it really, right? I mean, you could even play c7. Threatening c7. This... Well, why not play c7 here? This looks like a draw. I mean, he has to take. You take here. Okay. Yeah, maybe bishop d1, bishop f3. But okay, probably you should give up this pawn as well. And then this position, without the bishops, is a draw. And with the bishops, I don't really know. But okay, this is the best you ever saw in a long time. So we shouldn't, yeah, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, if it's draw or winning, in the end, what matters is that you ask the most questions. So yeah, g4, e4, g4 probably even better. Yeah, you need to look for such resources for sure. Yeah, g4 is also threatening g5, which is nice. Yeah, unfortunately missed that, and after king f2, I think now it's lost. Probably the best try would be to give up here the bishop, but this position, you will lose it sooner or later. Yeah, no, you will lose it sooner or later, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, again here c5, best try, but it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter. I'm pretty sure your opponent would have found the win there as well. All right, so I see some questions here by Mario. After bishop, or statements, after bishop d6, I was planning to play bishop knight to g5. Black would have made other move than rook d7. All right, let me see this again. So here, you want to play knight g5. And then, okay, put some pressure on the b file, probably with rook b1, yeah? Yeah, good point. But yeah, you gotta see rook d7, right? And then it just doesn't work, unfortunately. And your other question was, could I send you the analysis of e4 and g4 in the endgame? Of course I can. All right. And I will. So afterwards I can get it to you, Mario. And well, thank you very much. You're saying this analysis is the most valuable you've given me. Okay, wow. Well, thank you. And also, of course, thank you for your continuous support. I don't know how many months it's been, but thanks so much. This, by the way, will be our last, the last Patron game analysis live stream, because I'm focusing on other projects. So this will be the last one, and I'm glad I could provide some more valuable lessons here. So really happy to hear it, and once again, thanks Mario for supporting me through Patreon. And yes, I hope I reach 2600 again in 2019 as well. Yeah, that would be nice. Okay, we have 2 more games, and I know Ian is waiting, so let's get to them. Okay, game number 4. Let's see it. and you're playing with the black pieces here. King Hunter, nice name, and it's the beloved French, but maybe not the so beloved French exchange. Well, I don't know your preferences, but I could imagine it's not your the variation you look forward to the most. Here you go knight c6, bishop d6 is also possible. I think bishop d6 may be a bit more flexible, I could imagine. I don't know, just a little note here. c3, bishop d6, knight f3, bishop g4, rook e1, queen d7, bishop e3. Yeah, it felt like you want to get more of an adventure here, castling queenside. Castling kingside would just be equal, I think, would be just fine. But okay, I guess matter of taste, even though objectively it feels like short castle is maybe a bit better. But okay, we will also want to have some fun in chess, right? So long castle, b4, knight to g6. Yeah, knight f5 is better, it seems, to just exchange the bishop here and let's say something like this. And I mean, it's all pretty much around equal, right? Unsurprisingly. But after knight g6, it gets a little bit tricky. Knight bd2, knight f4. Also after this move, it gets, yeah, not too sure about it. Probably worse then. You should play knight h4 and play h5. Something like this. It will take a while until you get an attack going here, obviously, but I think that would be the way to go. Because if the knight f4 takes here, your opponent could have continued with b5. That would have been stronger. Yeah, but he played queen a4, king b8, b5, knight e7, knight e5, takes. So yeah, here this is good, f6, knight f5, this is good, takes, rook a1. Interesting moment here. Your next move is completely logical, but you're missing a little tactic. You could have won a pawn here with a6, making use of that pin. Because the queen is unprotected, and white can also not play rook b1 as because you're controlling the square. Now the question is, what happens after rook e7? Well, it turns out that rook e7 is not really a threat, because you can play rook d8. And, well, if white takes on e8, obviously you take back, and in the end you win the pawn on b5. That would be nice. And if white takes the queen, it would be even nicer, because here you either take back on d7, or you play a very cool move, rook h8, the threat of rook takes f1, bishop d3, and rook e1 checkmate. And then once white defends against it, you can still take the rook. Guess you would need to play f3 here or something like that. Maybe h3. So this is winning. Yeah, especially because also after here you take a b5 and hit this one as well. Yeah, game over. So white cannot do that. And if he goes queen a3, you can just take on b5 and you're also up a pawn. So that would be nice. Yeah, we always have to keep our eyes open for things like that. A little bit unusual, but it's all about tactics. And also realizing that rook e7 is actually not a threat. Okay, rook h8, queen b3, takes. Here you play bishop g6. I see you want to prepare rook e8, but there's not really a need for that right now. White is not threatening anything. And if white goes queen b4, let's say, to play rook e7, you could still go rook e8 then. So instead you could grab some space here, maybe g5 first. Yeah, I wouldn't start with h5 necessarily, because maybe white can go h4. So g5 looks reasonable. Just grab some space here, just in case something happens later on against the king. You want to have some more space there, so less options for the opponent to escape. Okay, bishop g6, a4, rook e8, c4, takes, bishop f7. Okay, here I think now that white has created himself a target, you could go after rook d8 right away. Why not? threatening to take, knight f3, and now b6. And then you can still bring the bishop to d5, or bring to b7, and you're keeping an eye on this pawn on d4. So I think it would make sense to keep the rooks here on the board, like this. Bishop f7, queen to b4, bishop d5, queen c5. Yeah, here you actually go back. Why do you go back? Did you want to repeat moves? You better. I don't know. Okay. Here you could just take on e3. I mean, this is pretty much what happened in the game. But you could just do it right away because this is a really pleasant position for you. Your king is safe, and white's king now is not so safe because of this capture. You're threatening queen g4 already. Strong threat, very strong threat. So white has to go h3, queen e6, queen a3. I mean, white is really passive. Your bishop is a monster on d5. So this looks nice. These pawns are weak. It's important they're also on the light squares. Whew, this will be a tough position to defend for white. You'll probably grab some more space here. I don't know if you go f5, maybe. No. And then maybe even, well, it depends. It depends. But this looks really good. This looks really promising. Okay, after bishop f7, a5, now you go b6, which is good. And you take now, which is great, because you realize this pawn on b5 is actually just weak, and you're going to win it. Queen f8, king b7. Good move. No rush here to take on b5. This is exactly right. I like that. Queen e2, coming in, bishop c6. Yeah, this is all good. And also now, I mean, you could have pushed the pawn right away. But also move you play is fine. I mean, yeah, it's just a minor detail. Why not push right away, right? But, okay, I see what you want to do. Yeah, what you do also makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's just different ways to reach the same goal. So bishop e4, this is good. This is bring the king to d5. This is actually, it's pretty convincing. The pawn and games are winning for you, and otherwise the pawn on b6 will decide the game. Okay, here a lot of choices. Bishop c2, b5, they're all winning. What you do also works. I think bishop c2, I don't know, feels like to me it's a bit cleaner still to not exchange more pawns, but in this specific position it doesn't matter. But just as a side note, right? Also because, you know, now the pawn is a little bit closer to the queen side. I would have rather liked to have the b pawn still. But okay, like I'm saying, the position is winning either way. It's just, you know, details. Yeah, h5 also a nice move here. Yeah, white is in Zugzwang. Here you could already play bishop f3 check. Little tactic. King takes c2. But the way you do it, of course, is completely possible as well. It doesn't matter. And the pawn will be promoted. White has to give up the knight and will lose. Or actually, even worse, he cannot even give up the knight. Bishop e6 is coming. Oh man, that's terrible. Okay. All right. Let me see your comments here, Ian. Okay, you're saying, I didn't think about a6 after I told you previously not to move pawns in front of your king. Okay, you know how about these rules of thumb? They have their exceptions. So it's good that you remember that. And yes, in general, I mean, you did a good job here. That was great because, like you saw in the game also, your opponent wasn't able to open up any files against your king. Only very late, and then it was like just bad for him because he weakened his own pawn on b5. Yeah, of course. In general, you don't want to do that where your opponent is trying to checkmate you. But if it wins you material, then you still, you still get to consider it. That's the thing. Okay. So you're saying you couldn't gain time as... Ah, you were gaining time. Okay, okay, that's great. Yeah, repeating moves to gain time. That's a very good technique. Very well. And c5 was just to create a pass pawn. Well, to that I could say that why would you create a pass pawn if you already have one on the b file? Then you don't need to create another one, right? It's like you trade the pass pawn on the b file against the pass pawn on the c file. You see what I mean? And in the process you exchange a pair of pawns. So just in principle, in the end game, or when you're better, you don't want to trade too many pawns, because when we don't have pawns left anymore, it gets difficult to win. So that's just my point here. Okay. All right. Well, let me know if you have any more questions about this game. Otherwise, I will move on to the last game. My chair is making noises. It's a chair, not me. Okay. Okay. Let's get to the last game. All right, ladies and gentlemen, game number 5. And we have King Hunter with the black pieces. And once again, it is the French, but this time a different variation. Oh, there's actually a line I play myself with white. So let's see. Bishop e7, okay. Bishop e2, a6, castle b5. So this is a rather tame line white chose here. Castling short, but of course also possible. Knight b1, I've never seen this before. Quite unusual, but okay. Knight b1, queen b6, c3. And here I think the first moment, you play bishop b7. This is like a move you might play in blitz. Just, develop a piece. Looks reasonable, right? But the bishop is not well placed on b7. What is it doing there, right? It's not doing anything. It's just making way for the rook. Because it's biting the pawn on d5, and this will not change anytime soon. So the bishop in the French, as we know, is often a little bit our problem child. We need to take care of it. And in this kind of structure, usually what we want to do is play a5, bishop a6, b4, so we can trade our problem child against the good child here on e2. Okay, maybe I should stop with that metaphor, but we should trade the bishops, the light squared bishops. That's all I'm trying to say. So a5 followed by b4 is the way to do it, or first bishop a6, doesn't matter, play b4, and you're doing well. Get rid of the bishop. Yeah, just get rid of it. I mean, I think this is one of the key points you want to take away from this game, especially if we consider how the game went and how it ended. It would be nice to trade the bishops now. And then you're doing really well. I mean, also the light squares will be weakened in the white position. You're claiming more space here. Maybe you can push a4, knight a5, and so on. Typical stuff, right? So I think this is important here to remember, to trade the bishops. Because on b7, it's just, not doing anything. Just standing there, watching. Just watching the action without being involved. Knight bd2, castle a3. Once again, here a5 would be the way to do it. a5, b4, bishop a6. Still the right plan, as well as here, still a5. Okay, but if you didn't play it earlier, obviously you're not suddenly gonna magically come across it. So you take here. Okay, this is the second important moment. You play f6. Hold on a minute. Didn't you just say in the chat that I taught you to not move the pawns in front of your king, and now you play f6? This is a little bit paradoxical to me. You see here, these are your pawns in front of your king, and If you move any of them, it might be h6, but even with that move, I'd be careful just because there might be some sacrifice. So just leave it until you have to make a pawn move. f6 is just helping your opponent here to get to your king. That's all it is. There's no benefit for you to take on e5. Yes, you open up the f-file, but white will better be equipped to use the f-file because he has more space and he can take better control of the squares. So this is just helping your opponent. Maybe you're playing for the cheapo here with the pin on this diagonal. Like if white plays a move like that you could take twice, something like that. Was that? Maybe you're playing for it, even though here white can still attack it like this. I don't know. But in general, like I said, here this principle very much should be applied, that you shouldn't move the pawns in front of your own king. In general, what I also learned back in the day is that, you know, attacking the pawn head, in this case e5, is not really that effective because, yeah, white will just take back. We want to attack the pawn base, so in this case d4. Of course, it's not that simple here, but yeah, attacking a pawn on e5 is not doing anything, it's just hurting you. Okay, queen e2, takes, knight a5, and here we see what I mean. If white plays king h1 here, you might be surprised to learn that white is already winning here. White is not up any material, but he's already winning because the attack will become too strong. And I mean, it's not really that surprising, right? Because look where your pieces are. 5 of them are on the queen side, and like a lot of the white pieces on the king side. It's like 4 pieces here on the king side against your 2 pieces. So if you go knight c4 now, knight g5, bishop takes, queen h5. This is why king h1 was played, so black cannot take on e3. And yeah, it will be tough. Very tough. I mean, g6, white just kills this pawn. This will be... you won't survive this. So the queen is so far away, I mean, what to do? Yeah, and I don't even know what to suggest here. h6. Oh no, there's queen g6 immediately. Yeah, no, this is looking bad. This is looking pretty bad. Yeah, so this illustrates my point, hopefully, that there were some drawbacks to playing f6. Okay, h4, knight c4, rook a b1. Okay, and here actually you're back in business. With this knight on c4 just in time. You take on e3 now. This is possible, but yeah, I'm not too happy about it. Either play h6 here, just to take the g5 square away, or you could play a5. Once again, it's a little bit slow maybe, but it works to get b4, bishop a6 in, and trade this bishop. I mean, you definitely want to get rid of this bishop. It's such a strong piece here, aiming at h7. So this would be one way to do it. Knight g5 now. You could take, and important here is that you have this move. And this is fine for you. For example, knight c4, d takes c4. Okay, this would be like Christmas for this bishop on b7, opening up and something like this. But okay, this is like the best you've ever seen in the game, right? This is equal, but okay, I mean, I would definitely take black here. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, knight takes e3, I don't know. I feel like this bishop is worse than the knight. This is not the problem you're facing here. So, but by taking, you also take away these options of tactics on e5. Just they don't work anymore. So, yeah, I think there was no rush to take on e3. h6 also very reasonable. Because not so clear then how white will continue. I mean, he cannot magically beam the queen to g6, fortunately. So, not so clear. You should be okay here, actually. After knight takes e3, queen takes, you would need to play... Yeah, move like knight c5. That would be nice. I'm not sure if you consider this move. Obviously, white cannot take, because pin and win. And after bishop c2, again, something like b4. And creating play. You need to create some play here as soon as possible. Or, okay, if you didn't see knight c5, once again, I mean, I've repeated this so many times now, you probably get tired of hearing it, but a5 followed by b4, let's say, or b4 first, maybe b4 first is better, just in case, just not to allow white to play b4 after a5. b4, knight g5, takes, a5, try to play bishop a6, that's what we want to achieve. And trade this bishop, the best piece that white has. I mean, best minor piece. After queen d8, it will get really sad now, because now you're just stuck with two bad minor pieces, right? The bishop, which has been bad all game, and the knight on d7, which also is not seeing the light again. There's no perspective. Even if it went to b6, white could just play b3. So at this point, I mean, position is just busted strategically because you have bad minor pieces and you have a lot of dark squared weaknesses. So there's not really much hope here, I think. No. So we can play through it pretty quickly, but there was just nothing to do. And now you see what I mean. Okay, even if we traded these bishops now off the board, you would be still in severe trouble. But with the bishops on the board, it's even worse because you're just playing with a piece that doesn't have any effect. So white is having an easy win here. Of course, also because of this protected passed pawn. But even without it, position would be one winning for white because of the dark squared weaknesses. Yeah, and the bishop is trapped. Kind of a symbolic end to this game, because it feels like because of this bishop you lost, because you didn't trade it at some point earlier, like I said 1,000 times with a5 and b4. I'm sure you'll remember this one from this game, that this is a common plan to play a5 and b4 and trade the bishop via a6 against a good light squared bishop by white. All right. Wow. Well, thank you so much for your comments, Ian. First of all, thanks for all your help over this last 16 months, you're saying. I didn't realize it was so long. That is really a long time. And yeah. I'm glad it was helpful, and I'm glad you see your chess improving, and you're welcome. And thank you for supporting me through Patreon. I mean, this is a two-way street, obviously. And who knows, maybe this format will come back in the future. Nobody knows at this point, but I decided to have this as the last stream for now. But it's been a while, and I enjoyed those, and I think those streams and those game analysis also were really helpful for other people. So that's why I did them, because mostly on my channel it's about top game analysis, and you know, those top guys, they are there for a reason. They don't make like basic mistakes, and so it's like chess on a much higher level, and sometimes it's good to go back to the basics and cover games like these ones where we really can talk about basic strategic ideas, and I think this is where a lot of people can benefit the most. So I think this whole format was a good one, and who knows, maybe we'll come back in the future, but for now this will be the last stream and the last Patron game analysis for now. So thank you very much, Ian, and also all the others who are contributing through Patreon for their support. And yeah, I'm glad it was useful, it was valuable, and I wish you the best of luck in your future tournaments. And of course the same is true for Mario as well. And in fact, everybody who's watching here, I hope you're taking something and it helps you in your future games for sure. Tilo asked the question, Nicholas, congratulations to 5.5 out of 9 at the Isle of Man. So this is a tournament that just ended. I came back from it yesterday. What do you think of your performance? Are you satisfied? Yeah, no, I'm not satisfied because my goal was to play against strong players and I only played against 2. One of them was Wesley So. That was great to play against such a strong player and actually be on par with him. I lost, but I gave him a really good fight and I could have gotten a draw. So that was good to see that this is possible. But I would have liked to play against more strong players, and I just didn't manage to beat the slightly lower rated players like 2450. And I made too many draws with them, and then I just wasn't paired against stronger players. So no, I'm not satisfied. I'm satisfied with the finish. I made 2.5 out of 3. That was good. So at least I'm not losing a lot of rating, like 2.5 points, which really doesn't matter. But yeah, I'd hoped for more in this tournament. But it was a great tournament. I love this tournament. Yeah, it's my favorite tournament, I think. All around, just great. So I will probably be back next year and probably also do some game analysis. Definitely of my game against Wesley So, and maybe some more. But yeah, we'll see how my time permits it. And thanks to Mario who's saying, wish you success in your chess school. Well, maybe I should say at this point the chess school will be at first only in German. Maybe at some point there will be an English one too, but will be only in German. But thank you. So yeah, this will be coming up soon. Working a lot on it. And Victor is asking, it was really helpful, but how can I get better at strategy? Can you, for example, recommend some good book or something? Victor, in the description there is a link, book recommendations. It should be in the description. Otherwise, let me know. And this will lead you to my website. And I'm just checking the chat. Ah, yeah. No, this will not lead you to my website. This will lead you to the Amazon store. Even better. And there it has all the books that I recommend. Isn't that nice? So let me put this in the chat for you to check out. And there you will also find some books about strategy. I like especially Chess Structures. It's about pawn structures. And the books by Johan Helston, Mastering Chess Strategy, and there's also one about opening and endgame strategy. And what else is here? Let's see. Yeah, those are the ones mainly about strategy. Yep. Okay. All right, you guys. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. And we'll see each other pretty soon. World Championship and stuff. Looking forward to that one. So enjoy the rest of your night and talk to you soon. Bye bye.